Research Station Omega-7 floated in the dark silence of space like a small metal island. The station was built around a massive asteroid rich with strange crystals that glowed with soft blue light. These crystals were special. They could make spaceships travel faster than anything known before. Scientists from many worlds had come to study them. Kim Dae-ho walked slowly through the main corridor of the station. His security uniform was wrinkled and his hair looked messy. He carried a small tablet that was supposed to show his patrol routes, but the screen was dark. He had not turned it on for 3 days. The security officer stopped next to a large window that looked out into space. Sunlight from the nearby star warmed the metal floor in this spot. Dae-ho sat down and leaned against the wall. Within minutes, his eyes closed and he began to sleep. Dr. Park So-ra found him there an hour later. She was the station's main scientist who studied alien life forms. Her lab coat was always clean, and her notes were always perfect. She looked down at the sleeping security officer and shook her head. "Dae-ho, you cannot sleep here," she said in a quiet voice. "The Vorthak delegation will be here soon for their inspection." Dae-ho opened one eye slowly. "The lizard people? They are always inspecting something." He stretched like he had been sleeping for hours instead of minutes. "What time is it?" "It is 1400 hours. You were supposed to check the cargo bay 2 hours ago." "I did check it," Dae-ho said. He stood up and brushed dust from his uniform. Everything was quiet. Too quiet, maybe. So-ra did not understand what he meant by that. She never understood what Dae-ho meant when he said strange things. "Just try to look professional when Commander Thex arrives. Please." Dae-ho nodded and walked away. His steps were soft and made almost no sound on the metal floor. So-ra watched him go and wondered how Earth Command had decided to send such a lazy person to guard their most important research station. In the research labs, other scientists worked on the glowing crystals. Dr. Kang Yoo-jin was the station psychologist. She studied how different alien minds worked together. Right now, she was watching Lee Jun-sik repair a broken data terminal. Jun-sik was a maintenance worker who knew every pipe and wire in the station. He was usually cheerful and made jokes while he worked. Today he seemed different. He worked in silence and did not smile when Yoo-jin said hello. "Are you feeling well, Jun-sik?" she asked. "I am fine," he said without looking up. "Just tired," Yoo-jin made a note on her tablet. Stress affected different people in different ways. Living in space for months could make anyone act strange. She decided to watch Jun-sik more closely over the next few days. In the communications room, Yoon Hae-jin sat at his control panel. Dozens of screens showed data streams from across the galaxy. His job was to keep the station connected to the rest of the universe. Messages came in from Earth, from the Vorthak homeworld, and from the insect-like Quillen colonies. Hae-jin had worked this job for 2 years. He knew every signal pattern and every communication protocol. But today, something felt wrong. The data looked the same as always, but somehow different. He could not explain what bothered him. A message came in from Earth Command. Hae-jin read it quickly and then read it again. It was a routine supply request, but one word was spelled wrong. Earth Command never made spelling mistakes. Their computers checked everything 3 times. He was about to report the error when someone walked into the room. It was Dae-ho. The security officer looked around the room like he had never seen it before. "Everything normal here?" Dae-ho asked. "Yes, all normal," Hae-jin said quickly. "Maybe too quickly." Dae-ho nodded slowly. He picked up a small paperweight from Hae-jin's desk and looked at it carefully. It was a gift from Hae-jin's sister on Earth. Dae-ho set it down in a slightly different spot. "Nice little thing," Dae-ho said. "Your sister gave it to you, right? The one who works at the Seoul Space Academy?" Hae-jin stared at him. He had never told anyone about his sister or where she worked. "How did you know that?" "Lucky guess," Dae-ho said with a small smile. He left the room as quietly as he had entered. He-Jin looked at the paperweight. Why had Daeho moved it? And how did he know about his sister? The security officer seemed too lazy to remember his own name, let alone personal details about the crew. Meanwhile, in Laboratory C, research assistant Cho Min-ho was copying files onto a portable data chip. The files contained early research data about the crystals. Min-ho looked around to make sure no one was watching, then slipped the chip into his pocket. Dr. Nam Ji-woo walked into the lab carrying a cup of coffee. She was the station's computer expert and Min-ho's supervisor. "Working late again, Min-ho?" she asked. "Just finishing the daily reports," Min-ho said. "Dr. Ji-woo, do you think these crystals are really as important as everyone says?" "They could change everything," Ji-woo said. "Faster travel means faster communication, faster trade, faster everything. Every government in the galaxy wants this. Research." "Even the ones we have never met?" Ji-woo gave him a strange look. "What do you mean?" "Nothing important," Min-ho said quickly. "Just thinking about the possibilities." After Ji-woo left, Min-ho touched the data chip in his pocket. Soon, his real employers would have what they needed. The humans and their alien friends would learn what happened when they kept important secrets. In the cafeteria, the evening shift was eating dinner. The Vorthak crew members sat at one table, their scales changing color as they talked about the day's work. The Quillen representatives clicked and buzzed in their own language at another table. The humans sat together and spoke quietly about their experiments. Daeho entered the cafeteria and looked around. He walked to the food dispenser and got a tray of something that might have been meat and vegetables. Instead of sitting with the other humans, he found a table in the corner where he could see the entire room. Commander Thex, the Vorthak expedition leader, noticed him there. Thex's scales shifted to a pattern that showed amusement. "Look at the human security guard," Thex said to his companions. "He sits alone and watches everyone like a predator, but he moves like prey. Very strange creatures, these humans." "Their security methods are primitive," said another Vorthak. "No advanced sensors, no automated systems. Just one sleepy guard who cannot stay awake during his own shifts." Thex nodded. Perhaps that is why they sent him to this remote station. He cannot cause trouble here. Daeho heard every word. His hearing was much better than most people knew. He continued eating and watching. His eyes moved slowly from table to table, person to person. He was looking for something, but no one could tell what it was. The day shift ended, and the night shift began. Most of the crew went to their quarters to sleep. The station's lights dimmed to simulate nighttime. In the quiet corridors, only the soft hum of life support systems could be heard. Daeho began his night patrol. He walked through every section of the station, checking doors and looking at security monitors. But his real attention was on the small details that others missed. A door that closed too quickly. Footprints in dust where no one should have walked. The smell of fear in rooms that should have been empty. Something was wrong on Research Station Omega-7. Daeho could feel it in his bones. The question was not if trouble would come, but when it would show itself. And when it did, everyone would learn that the lazy security officer was not what he seemed to be. 3 weeks before the strange behavior began on Research Station Omega-7, a secret meeting took place on the dark side of a dead moon. The Hegemony War Council gathered in a hidden base carved deep into the rock. The council was made up of 3 different alien species who had joined together to conquer weaker worlds. General Vex of the Saurian Empire stood before a holographic display showing the research station. His red eyes glowed as he spoke to the assembled officers. "The humans have found something that could change the balance of power in this galaxy," Vex said. "These crystals they study could make their ships faster than ours. We cannot allow this." "What do you propose?" asked Admiral Korth of the Zephyrian fleet. Her tentacles moved nervously as she waited for the answer. "Infiltration," Vex replied. "We will replace 3 of their crew members with our best agents. The humans trust their alien allies. They will never suspect that some of their own people have been replaced. The third member of the council, Hive Master Quinn of the Nexus Collective, clicked his mandibles together. Our shapeshifters can take any form, but what about their memories, their personal histories? We have been watching this station for months, Vex explained. Our spies have recorded everything, every conversation, every habit, every small detail about the crew members we will replace. Our agents will be perfect copies. The plan was simple and deadly. 3 hegemony agents would use advanced technology to look exactly like human crew members. They would live their lives, do their jobs, and slowly steal all the research data. When they were finished, they would destroy the station and everyone on it. The first agent was Operative Zarn. He was a master of disguise who had fooled security forces on dozens of worlds. Zarn would become Lee Junsik, the maintenance worker, who knew every secret passage in the station. The second agent was Operative Kess. She specialized in communications and computer systems. Kess would replace Yoon Hai-jin and gain access to all the station's data networks. The third agent was Operative Nix. He was an expert at acting like a scientist while stealing research secrets. Nix would take the place of Cho Min-ho, the research assistant who had access to the crystal laboratories. The real Junsik, Hai-jin, and Min-ho were captured during a supposed supply run to a nearby asteroid mining facility. Hegemony ships attacked their transport and took them prisoner. The 3 humans were locked in a secret prison where their memories could be scanned and copied. The process was painful but complete. Every birthday party, every family dinner, every private moment was recorded and transferred to the hegemony agents. When it was finished, the agents knew everything about their targets. They could fool anyone, even close friends and family. Operative Zarn was the first to arrive at the station. He used a stolen transport ship and false identification codes. The real Junsik was scheduled to return from his supply run, so no one questioned his arrival. Zarn walked onto the station wearing Junsik's face and carrying Junsik's memories. "Welcome back," said Dr. Park Sora as Zarn entered the main airlock. "How was the mining facility?" "Boring as always," Zarn replied, using Junsik's voice perfectly. "Nothing but rocks and dust. I am glad to be home." Sora smiled. Everything seemed normal. She had no idea that the real Junsik was locked in a prison cell light years away. Zarn went to his quarters and began his mission. He accessed the station's maintenance systems and started mapping every corridor, every vent, every hidden space. As Junsik, he had legitimate reasons to be everywhere on the station. No one would question why he was checking pipes in restricted areas. 2 days later, Operative Kess arrived as Yoon Hai-jin. She claimed her transport had been delayed by engine problems. The communications officer was known for having bad luck with machinery, so everyone believed her story. Kess immediately went to work in the communications room. She began installing tiny devices that would copy all incoming and outgoing messages. The devices were so small that they looked like normal components. Even an expert would not notice them unless they knew exactly what to look for. The third agent, Operative Nix, arrived a week later as Cho Min-ho. He said he had taken extra time to study crystal formations at the mining facility. Since Min-ho was known for being dedicated to his research, no one questioned his extended absence. Nix quickly proved his value by suggesting new experiments with the crystals. His ideas were actually stolen from other research projects that the hegemony had infiltrated. The human scientists were impressed by his sudden burst of creativity. All 3 agents began their work carefully. They maintained their false identities perfectly during the day. They laughed at the same jokes, ate the same foods, and acted exactly like the people they had replaced. But at night, when most of the crew was sleeping, they met in secret to plan their next moves. The station's security system was old and simple compared to hegemony technology. The agents could move through restricted areas without triggering any alarms. They copied research files, mapped defense systems, and identified the best ways to destroy the station when their mission was complete. Only one thing puzzled them. The human security officer, Kim Dae-ho, seemed completely unaware of everything happening around him. According to their intelligence reports, human security forces were supposed to be clever and dangerous, but this one spent most of his time sleeping. Perhaps the humans sent their weakest guard to this remote station, Operative Zarn suggested during one of their secret meetings. Or maybe this is how humans really are when no one is watching, added Operative Kess. Lazy and careless. Operative Nix nodded. Either way, he presents no threat to our mission. We can complete our work without worrying about him. The agents were confident. Everything was going according to plan. They had perfect disguises, complete access to the station, and no one suspected anything. The lazy security guard was not even worth thinking about, but they were wrong about Kim Dae-ho. While they held their secret meetings, he was awake and listening. While they copied classified files, he was watching from the shadows. While they planned the destruction of the station, he was planning something of his own. Dae-ho had noticed small changes in the 3 crew members as soon as they returned. Jun-sik held his tools differently. Hae-jin typed with a rhythm that was not quite right. Min-ho asked questions that the real Min-ho already knew the answers to. These were tiny, details that most people would never see. But Dae-ho was not most people. He had been trained to notice when something was wrong, even when everything appeared normal. The security officer continued his routine of napping and wandering around the station. But now, he had a purpose. He was studying the infiltrators, learning their habits, and waiting for the right moment to act. In his security reports to Earth Command, Dae-ho used a special code that only a few people knew how to read. The reports looked like boring patrol logs, but they actually contained detailed intelligence about the hegemony agents. Earth Command understood the message. Help was coming, but it would take weeks to arrive. Until then, Dae-ho would have to handle the situation alone. The security officer was not worried. He had dealt with infiltrators before, though never 3 at once. The key was patience. Let them think they were winning. Let them become confident and careless, then strike when they least expected it. As the days passed, the hegemony agents grew bolder. They stole more files and gathered more intelligence. They were close to having everything they needed to complete their mission, but they still did not understand that the sleepy human in the wrinkled uniform was the most dangerous person on the station. Soon they would learn the difference between sleeping and hunting. Kim Dae-ho began acting strangely 3 days after the last infiltrator arrived on the station. It started with small things that most people thought were just normal human oddness. The security officer was found crawling through an air vent in Section C. When Dr. Park Sora discovered him, only his legs were visible sticking out of the opening. "Dae-ho, what are you doing up there?" she asked. His voice echoed from inside the metal tunnel. "Checking for drafts. These old stations get cold spots everywhere." "The environmental systems monitor temperature automatically," Sora said. "You do not need to crawl around in vents." Dae-ho wiggled backward out of the vent. His uniform was covered in dust and his hair had cobwebs in it. "Automatic systems miss things sometimes. I like to check with my own hands." Sora shook her head and walked away. She made a mental note to ask Dr. Kang Yoo-jin to evaluate Dae-ho's mental state. Perhaps the isolation of space was affecting his mind, but Dae-ho was not losing his mind. He was mapping every air vent and maintenance tunnel in the station. He had found traces that someone else had been using these hidden passages recently, someone who was trying not to be seen. The next strange behavior started that same afternoon. Dae-ho began leaving small objects in specific places around the station. A pen here, a data chip there, a small wrench in an odd corner. He would place these items carefully, then sit nearby and watch them for hours. Operative Zarn, still disguised as Lee Jun-sik, found one of these objects while doing his maintenance work. It was a small electronic component sitting on top of a power junction box. Zarn recognized it as a motion sensor. Why would the security guard put a sensor here? Zarn wondered. He looked around to make sure no one was watching, then picked up the device and put it in his pocket. What Zarn did not know was that Daeho was watching from a hidden camera he had installed days earlier. The security officer smiled slightly when he saw the infiltrator take the bait. The third unusual behavior was the most disturbing. Daeho started following certain crew members around the station. He would stay just far enough behind them that they could barely see him, like a shadow that was almost invisible. Operative Kess noticed this first. She was walking to the communications room when she felt eyes watching her. She turned around and saw Daeho about 20 meters behind her, apparently studying a wall panel. When she continued walking, he followed at the same distance. "Security Officer Kim," she called out, using Heijin's voice. "Is there something wrong?" Daeho looked up like he had just noticed her. "Wrong? No, nothing wrong. Just doing my patrol route. Your patrol route follows the same path I am walking?" "What a strange coincidence," Daeho said with an innocent expression. "I guess we both have good taste in corridors." Kess did not think it was funny. She hurried to her destination and locked the door behind her. Through the small window, she could see Daeho standing in the hallway, apparently doing nothing. Kang Yujin was becoming seriously worried about Daeho's behavior. As the station psychologist, it was her job to monitor the mental health of the crew. She decided to observe him more carefully. What she saw concerned her. Daeho was exhibiting classic predatory behavior patterns. The stalking, the territorial, marking with objects, the exploration of hidden spaces. It was like he was hunting something, but she could not figure out what. "Daeho," she said one morning when she found him sitting in his usual sunny spot by the observation window. "I would like to talk to you about how you are feeling." "I feel fine," Daeho said without opening his eyes. "Very relaxed, very patient." "Patience? Are you thinking about medical treatment?" "Patient," Daeho corrected. "Like waiting for the right moment. Some things cannot be rushed, Dr. Yujin. They have to develop naturally." Yujin made notes on her tablet. "What kinds of things are you waiting for?" Daeho opened one eye and looked at her. "I am waiting for the mice to make a mistake." "Mice? There are no mice on this station." "Figure of speech," Daeho said. He closed his eye again and smiled slightly. "Big mice, clever mice, but still mice." Yujin did not understand what he meant. She recommended that Daeho take some time off from his security duties and rest in his quarters. Daeho politely declined. Meanwhile, the three hegemony agents were making progress with their mission. They had copied 70% of the crystal research data and identified all the station's weak points. Their success made them confident. Perhaps too confident. Operative Nix made the first serious mistake. He was in the research lab late at night, copying files onto a portable storage device. He thought he was alone, but Daeho was watching from a maintenance hatch in the ceiling. Nix finished his work and erased the computer's memory logs to hide what he had done, but he forgot one small detail. The real Cho Min-ho always left a specific screensaver running on his computer. It was a picture of his family back on Earth. When Dr. Namji-woo came to work the next morning, she noticed that Min-ho's computer showed a standard system screensaver instead. She thought it was odd, but did not consider it important. Daeho considered it very important. He added this information to his mental file about the infiltrators. The second mistake came from Operative Kess. She was monitoring communications when an emergency message came in from Earth Command. The message used a code that only real Earth personnel would recognize. It was a test to verify the identity of the communications officer. Kess did not know the proper response code. She had Haijin's memories, but this was new security information that had been implemented after his capture. She sent back a generic acknowledgement instead of the specific coded reply. Daeho was in the communications room when this happened, apparently napping in a chair. But he heard everything. He knew that the real Hai-Jin would have responded correctly to that test code. The third mistake was made by Operative Zarn. He was repairing a broken environmental control system when Commander Thex of the Vorthak delegation visited the area. Thex mentioned that the system reminded him of similar technology on Earth. Yes, Zarn agreed. It looks just like the systems we used in Seoul. But the real Junsik had never lived in Seoul. He was from Busan, and he often talked about missing the ocean. Zarn had confused details from different human personnel files. Daeho was present during this conversation, cleaning his fingernails with apparent boredom, but he caught every word. That night, Daeho sent another coded report to Earth. Command. His message looked like a routine maintenance log, but it actually contained detailed intelligence about the infiltrators' activities and mistakes. The response came back 12 hours later, hidden in what appeared to be updated safety regulations. Earth Command confirmed that help was still weeks away. Daeho was authorized to take whatever action he deemed necessary to protect the station. Daeho deleted the message and continued his strange behavior. He left more objects around the station, crawled through more air vents, and followed the infiltrators more obviously. To everyone else, he looked like a security guard who was slowly losing his mind, but the hegemony agents were starting to feel uncomfortable. The human's behavior was becoming more unsettling each day. They began to wonder if he suspected something. Perhaps we should eliminate him, Operative Zarn suggested during one of their secret meetings. No, replied Operative Kess. His disappearance would be noticed. We need to complete our mission first. Besides, added Operative Nix, what threat could one lazy human pose to 3 trained hegemony operatives? They decided to ignore Daeho and focus on finishing their work. They had no idea that the lazy human had already identified all 3 of them and was preparing to strike. The hunt was about to begin, and the predator was ready to pounce. Kim Daeho's behavior became more predatory with each passing day. He moved through the station like a hunting animal, but he was careful to maintain his image as a lazy, incompetent security guard. The gifts he left for the infiltrators became more specific and more disturbing. Operative Zarn found a small mirror placed on his workbench with a note that said, "For seeing your true face." Operative Kess discovered a toy mouse in her communication equipment with a tag reading, "Caught you." Operative Nix opened his research locker to find a picture of a cat's eyes staring back at him. The infiltrators tried to ignore these strange presents, but they were becoming nervous. The items seemed to appear in places where only they would find them. It was like someone knew exactly where they went and what they did when no one else was watching. "The security guard is playing games with us?" Operative Zarn said during one of their midnight meetings. "He knows something." "Impossible," replied Operative Kess. "Our disguises are perfect. He is just a disturbed human who cannot handle the stress of space isolation." But even as she said it, Kess was not completely convinced. There was something about the way Daeho looked at them. His eyes seemed to see more than they should. Daeho began changing his patrol patterns in ways that seemed random, but were actually carefully planned. He would take a wrong turn and end up exactly where one of the infiltrators was conducting secret business. He would fall asleep in a corridor and wake up just as they were trying to sneak past him. One night, Operative Nix was copying the last of the crystal research files when he heard soft footsteps in the hallway outside the lab. He quickly hid the storage device and pretended to be running routine experiments. Daeho walked into the lab carrying a cup of coffee. He looked around the room like he had never seen it before. "Working late again, Minho?" Daeho asked. "Just finishing some calculations," Nix replied, using his false voice perfectly. Daeho nodded and sat down in a chair near the door. He began talking to himself in a voice just loud enough for Nix to hear. "Funny how some people work so hard at night," Daeho said to no one in particular. "Makes you wonder what they are really doing. Mice are most active in the dark, you know. They think no one can see them scurrying around, taking things that do not belong to them." Nix felt a chill run down his spine Was the security guard talking about him, or was this just more of his crazy rambling? Of course, Daeho continued. Cats can see in the dark, too. Cats are very patient hunters. They watch and wait and learn all about their prey before they strike. Mice never see it coming. Nix finished his fake experiments as quickly as possible and left the lab. As he walked down the corridor, he could feel Daeho's eyes following him. When he turned around, the security guard was standing in the lab doorway, smiling slightly. Unknown to the infiltrators, Daeho had been making subtle changes to the station's security systems for weeks. He had modified sensor patterns, adjusted camera angles, and created invisible electronic traps. Every unauthorized access, every secret meeting, every stolen file was being recorded. Dr. Nam Ji-woo first noticed the anomalies during her weekly system maintenance check. She found new programs running in the background of the computer network. The code was elegant and sophisticated, far beyond what the station's simple security systems should have been able to handle. "Daeho," she said when she found him napping in the cafeteria, "have you been modifying the security network?" "Me?" Daeho opened one eye and looked confused. "I can barely figure out how to turn on my patrol tablet. Why would I know anything?" "About computer networks?" Ji-woo showed him her diagnostic reports. "Someone has been adding new monitoring programs to our systems. The modifications are very advanced." Daeho studied the reports with apparent confusion. "Looks complicated. Maybe the system is updating itself. These automated programs do strange things sometimes." Ji-woo was not satisfied with that explanation, but she could not figure out another answer. The modifications were too sophisticated for Daeho to have created them. She decided to monitor the system more closely. What Ji-woo did not know was that Daeho had been making these changes during his supposed naps. While everyone thought he was sleeping, he was actually accessing the computer network through hidden terminals he had installed around the station. The security officer had spent years learning to type without looking at keyboards. He could modify complex programs while appearing to be unconscious. It was a skill that had saved his life on previous missions. As the days passed, Daeho's stalking became more obvious and more unsettling. He would stand outside doors where the infiltrators were meeting. He would sit in corridors they needed to use and force them to walk past him. He would appear in their peripheral vision at moments when they felt most vulnerable. The psychological pressure was beginning to affect the hegemony agents. They made more mistakes and took greater risks. Operative Kess started sending encrypted messages to her handlers, asking for permission to eliminate the security guard. The responses told her to maintain her cover and complete the mission. But completing the mission was becoming more difficult. Every time they tried to access restricted areas, they found Daeho somewhere nearby. Every time they attempted to steal sensitive data, they discovered new security measures that had not been there before. "He is hunting us," Operative Zarn said during another secret meeting. "I do not know how, but he knows what we are." "Then we eliminate him tonight," Operative Nix replied. "Make it look like an accident." They made plans to ambush Daeho during his midnight patrol, but when they went to intercept him, they could not find him anywhere. He had vanished from his usual routes and hiding spots. What they did not realize was that Daeho was watching them search for him. He had predicted their plan and was now documenting their attempt to commit murder. The evidence would be useful when the time came to justify his actions. The next morning, Daeho appeared at breakfast looking perfectly normal. He ate his meal slowly and chatted with other crew members about unimportant topics. The infiltrators watched him carefully, trying to understand how he had avoided their trap. "Good morning," Daeho said when he passed their table. "I hope everyone slept well. I had the most interesting dreams. Dreams about mice trying to catch a cat. Very amusing." The way he said it made all three infiltrators uncomfortable. It was like he knew exactly what they had been planning. Dr. Kang Yu-jin was becoming increasingly concerned about the tension on the station. Several crew members had complained about feeling watched and followed. The atmosphere was becoming paranoid and suspicious. She called Dae-ho to her office for a psychological evaluation. He arrived on time and sat down with his usual relaxed manner. "The crew is reporting some unusual stress symptoms," Yoo-jin said. "They feel like they are being observed constantly. Do you know anything about this?" "People always feel watched in space," Dae-ho replied. "All these windows looking out into the void makes everyone nervous. This is different. They specifically mention feeling like they are being hunted." Dae-ho was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was very serious. "Dr. Yoo-jin, what would you do if you discovered that some of your friends were not really your friends? What if they were pretending to be people you trusted while planning to hurt you? I would want proof before I accused anyone of such serious crimes. And what if getting proof required very careful observation? What if the pretenders were dangerous and would kill innocent people if they knew they had been discovered?" Yoo-jin studied Dae-ho's face carefully. For the first time since she had known him, he looked completely alert and focused. This was not the lazy security guard who napped in sunny corridors. This was someone else entirely. "Dae-ho, what are you not telling me?" "I am telling you to be very careful who you trust," he replied. "Some mice are actually wolves in disguise. But do not worry. The cat is watching." He left her office before she could ask more questions. Yoo-jin sat alone, trying to understand what Dae-ho had meant. Was he having paranoid delusions, or was there really something dangerous happening on the station? That night, Dae-ho sent his final coded report to Earth Command. The message contained complete intelligence profiles of all 3 infiltrators, evidence of their crimes, and a detailed plan for capturing them. The response came back within hours. Earth Command gave Dae-ho authorization to take any action necessary to protect the station and its crew. They also warned him that the infiltrators' backup plan probably involved destroying the station to eliminate all evidence. Dae-ho smiled as he deleted the message. The hunting phase was over. Tomorrow, it would be time to pounce. The infiltrators decided to make their final move on a quiet Tuesday morning when most of the station crew was attending a scheduled research presentation in the main conference room. Dr. Park Sora was explaining new discoveries about the crystal formations, while the audience listened intently. Kim Dae-ho was supposed to be providing security for the meeting, but his chair was empty. Several people noticed his absence, but no one was surprised. The lazy security guard was probably napping, somewhere as usual. In reality, Dae-ho was wide awake and moving through the station's air vents like a silent predator. He had spent weeks mapping every tunnel and passage. Now he used that knowledge to stay invisible while the infiltrators began their final operation. Operative Zarn started by sabotaging the life support systems in Engineering Section D. His plan was to create a slow oxygen leak that would not be detected until it was too late. The crew would become unconscious gradually, making it easy to eliminate any survivors. As Zarn worked on the environmental controls, he felt a slight movement in the air above him. He looked up, but saw only darkness in the ventilation grate. He returned to his sabotage, unaware that Dae-ho was watching every move through a hidden camera. Operative Kess was in the communications room, preparing to send a signal to the hegemony fleet waiting in dark space beyond the asteroid field. The signal would guide enemy ships to the station for the final phase of the operation. She had already disabled the station's distress beacon to prevent any calls for help. Kess typed the activation codes for her transmitter, but nothing happened. She tried again with the same result. The equipment appeared to be working normally, but no signals were going out. What she did not know was that Dae-ho had modified the communication array days earlier. All outgoing transmissions were being rerouted to a fake receiver that made the equipment think it was working while actually sending nothing. Operative Nix was in the main computer core, downloading the final data files and preparing to activate a virus that would destroy all research records. The virus was designed to look like a system malfunction, hiding the evidence that the data had been stolen. As Nix worked, he heard a soft sound behind him. He turned around but saw nothing except shadows. The sound came again, like someone breathing very quietly in the darkness. "Hello?" Nix called out. "Is someone there?" Silence answered him. He returned to his work, but the feeling of being watched made his hands shake. He made a small mistake in the virus code that would prove crucial later. All three infiltrators were focused on their tasks when Deho struck. He moved with deadly precision, using skills he had learned during years of covert operations on hostile worlds. The first target was Operative Zarn in the engineering section. Deho dropped silently from a ceiling vent and landed behind the disguised alien. Before Zarn could react, Deho had locked him in a sleeper hold that cut off blood flow to his brain. Zarn struggled briefly, then went limp. Deho quickly bound his hands and feet with security restraints, then injected him with a sedative that would keep him unconscious for hours. The sabotage life support system was repaired in minutes. The second target was Operative Kess in the communications room. Deho approached through a maintenance tunnel that opened directly behind her workstation. He waited until she was completely focused on her failed transmissions, then struck. Kess was faster than her partner. She sensed movement and spun around, pulling a concealed energy weapon from her uniform. But Deho was already moving. He rolled sideways as the weapon fired, the energy blast scorching the wall where he had been standing. "Impossible," Kess snarled, dropping her human disguise. Her true form was revealed, a tall insectoid creature with 4 arms and compound eyes. "You are just a lazy human guard." "I am what I need to be," Deho replied calmly. He threw a small device at her feet. It exploded in a burst of blinding light and deafening noise. While Kess was stunned, Deho moved in close. His fighting style was fluid and unpredictable, striking from angles she could not anticipate. Within seconds, she was unconscious and restrained like her partner. The third target, Operative Nix, proved to be the most dangerous. When Deho arrived, at the computer core, he found the infiltrator waiting for him with a military-grade plasma rifle. "I wondered when you would finally stop pretending to be incompetent," Nix said. His human disguise flickered and faded, revealing a reptilian creature with glowing red eyes. "Our intelligence reports said Earth security forces were dangerous, but you seemed so pathetic." "Appearances can be deceiving," Deho said. He stood perfectly still, hands at his sides, looking completely relaxed. "Just like your disguise. You have ruined months of careful planning," Nix continued. "But it does not matter. I have already uploaded the virus. In 30 minutes, every computer on this station will be destroyed, and you will be dead long before then." Nix raised the plasma rifle and aimed at Deho's chest. His finger tightened on the trigger. But Deho was already moving. He had spotted a reflection in one of the computer screens that told him exactly when Nix would fire. He dove to the side as the plasma bolt burned through the air where he had been standing. The fight that followed was unlike anything the station had ever seen. Nix was a trained hegemony warrior with advanced weapons and natural armor, but Deho fought like a wild animal, using every surface and shadow to his advantage. He bounced off walls, swung from ceiling pipes, and attacked from directions that seemed impossible. His movements were so fluid that Nix could not predict where he would be next. The alien's shots missed again and again, destroying equipment but never hitting their target. Finally, Deho found his opening. While Nix was reloading his weapon, the human security officer leaped from a high platform and struck with both feet. The impact sent the alien crashing into a bank of computers. Nix tried to get up, but Deho was on him instantly. The fight ended with the infiltrator unconscious and bound like his companions. With all 3 enemies neutralized, Deho quickly accessed the computer system to stop the virus. Nix's small coding error had created a weakness that allowed the security officer to disable the program before it could cause damage. As Deho worked, alarms began sounding throughout the station. The modified security systems he had installed were detecting the infiltrators' true alien DNA signatures now that their disguises had failed. Dr. Park Sora's voice came over the intercom system. All crew members report to designated safety stations. We have a security emergency. Dae-ho activated his communicator. This is Security Officer Kim. The emergency is contained. 3 hostile infiltrators have been captured. All crew members are safe. There was a long pause before Sora responded. Dae-ho? Is that really you? You sound different. It is me, Dae-ho replied. I will explain everything shortly. First, I need to secure the prisoners and contact Earth Command. He spent the next hour documenting evidence and preparing detailed reports. The unconscious infiltrators were locked in separate, holding cells with multiple security measures. Their stolen data was recovered, and their sabotage was completely undone. When the crew members finally saw the captured aliens, they were shocked. The creatures looked nothing like the humans they had been impersonating. Some people had difficulty believing that Jun-sik, Hae-jin, and Min-ho had been replaced by these monsters. Where are the real crew members? Dr. Kang Yu-jin asked. Alive, according to the intelligence data I recovered from their equipment, Dae-ho answered. Earth Command is sending a rescue mission to retrieve them from a hegemony prison facility. Commander Thex of the Vorthak delegation approached Dae-ho with obvious respect. I owe you an apology, Security Officer Kim. My people underestimated human capabilities. Most people do, Dae-ho said with a slight smile. That is usually an advantage. As the immediate crisis passed, the crew began asking questions about what had really happened. How had the lazy security guard suddenly become a deadly warrior? How long had he known about the infiltrators? And most importantly, who was Kim Dae-ho really? The answers would have to wait. Dae-ho had reports to file and prisoners to guard. But the hunt was over and the station was safe. The Predator had protected his territory, just as he was trained to do. 2 days after the capture of the hegemony infiltrators, Research Station Omega-7 was a very different place. Earth Command had sent a security team to take custody of the prisoners, and the real Jun-sik, Hae-jin, and Min-ho had been rescued from their alien prison. The 3 men were recovering in the medical bay, weak but alive. Kim Dae-ho sat in the same sunny spot by the observation window where he had spent countless hours pretending to sleep. But now everyone knew he had never been sleeping at all. The lazy security guard was gone, replaced by someone the crew was still learning to understand. Dr. Park So-ra approached him carrying a sealed data tablet. Her expression was a mixture of confusion and embarrassment. I finally received your complete personnel file from Earth Command, she said. Most of it is still classified above my clearance level, but I can see enough to understand my mistake. Dae-ho looked up at her with the same calm expression he had always worn. What mistake was that, Dr. So-ra? I thought you were incompetent. I apologize to alien dignitaries for your lack of professionalism. I recommended that Earth Command replace you with someone more qualified. She sat down in a chair across from him. You must think I am an idiot. I think you are a dedicated scientist who is focused on her important research, Dae-ho replied. You saw what you were supposed to see. That was the whole point. So-ra studied the man she thought she had known for months. Who are you really? I am exactly who I have always been. Kim Dae-ho, security officer. The only difference is that now you know what that actually means. Commander Thex of the Vorthak delegation had been listening to their conversation from nearby. His scales shifted to patterns of curiosity and respect as he approached. Security Officer Kim, Thex said formally, my government would like to understand how you detected the infiltrators when our advanced sensors found nothing suspicious. Dae-ho considered the question carefully before answering. Your sensors look for specific threats that you have encountered before. Energy weapons, explosive devices, biological toxins, very sophisticated technology. Yes, exactly. The most advanced detection systems in the galaxy. But you were not looking for behavioral changes in people you thought you already knew. Small differences in how someone holds a tool or types on a keyboard. The wrong response to a memory that should have been familiar. Dae-ho smiled slightly. Sometimes the most advanced approach is to use very simple methods. Thex's scales shifted to patterns of deep thought. You observed them like a predator studies prey. I observed them like someone who has dealt with shapeshifters before. The technology may be perfect, but the psychology is always flawed. No one can truly become another person completely. There are always small signs for those who know how to look. Dr. Kang Yoo-jin joined their conversation, carrying her psychological evaluation notes. I need to apologize as well, Dae-ho. I was convinced that you were suffering from paranoid delusions, the stalking behavior, the territorial marking, the predatory watching patterns. I was preparing to recommend psychiatric treatment. Those were not delusions, Dae-ho said. They were hunting techniques, and they worked exactly as intended. But why did you not simply arrest the infiltrators when you first suspected them? Yoo-jin asked. Why go through weeks of this elaborate psychological warfare? Dae-ho's expression became more serious. Because I needed absolute proof before I acted. False accusations against crew members would have destroyed trust and morale. And because I needed to understand their complete mission before stopping them. If I had moved too early, their backup plans might have succeeded. Dr. Nam Ji-woo approached the group looking embarrassed. I found more of your hidden modifications in our computer systems. You basically rebuilt our entire security network without anyone noticing. How long did that take? About 3 weeks, Dae-ho answered. I worked on it during my rest periods. Rest periods? You mean while you were pretending to nap? I was never really napping. That was just camouflage. Like a cat closing its eyes while still listening to everything around it. The rescued crew members were finally strong enough to join the conversation. Lee Jun-sik walked slowly from the medical bay, still weak from his imprisonment, but determined to understand what had happened. The aliens showed me recordings of their agent pretending to be me, Jun-sik said. The disguise was perfect. How did you know he was not really me? He held his tools wrong, Dae-ho replied simply. You are left-handed for precision work, but right-handed for heavy lifting. The infiltrator used the same hand for everything. Also, he never complained about missing the ocean. You mentioned Busan and the sea at least once every few days. Jun-sik stared at him in amazement. You notice things that's specific about how I work? I notice things about everyone. That is my job. Yoon Hae-jin and Cho Min-ho had similar reactions when they learned about the small details that had revealed their replacements. The fake Hae-jin had typed with the wrong rhythm. The fake Min-ho had asked questions about research he already knew. We lived together on this small station for months, Min-ho said. I thought everyone knew everything about everyone else. But you knew details that even we did not realize about ourselves. People reveal themselves in small actions more than in big speeches, Dae-ho explained. The way you move, the things you notice, the patterns you fall into when you think no one is watching. These things cannot be faked perfectly, no matter how good the technology. Commander Thex had been quiet during these revelations, but now he spoke with obvious respect. Our military analysts will want to study your methods. We have never encountered such effective counterintelligence techniques. You can study them, Dae-ho said, but they may not work for your people. These are specifically human approaches to hunting and territorial defense. Other species would need to develop their own techniques based on their natural behaviors. Dr. So-ra had been reading more of Dae-ho's personnel file on her tablet. It says here that you have dealt with infiltrators before. How many times? This was the 7th mission of this type, but it was the first time I had to handle 3 infiltrators simultaneously while maintaining deep cover for such a long period. Deep cover? Everyone had to believe I was exactly what I appeared to be, lazy, incompetent, harmless. If anyone had suspected the truth, The infiltrators might have changed their plans or eliminated me early. The conversation was interrupted by an announcement from Earth Command. A transport ship was arriving to take the prisoners back for interrogation and to deliver commendations for the station crew. As the crew prepared for the official ceremonies, many of them approached Dae-ho with apologies for their previous attitudes toward him. He accepted each apology gracefully but insisted that no harm had been done. "You reacted exactly as you should have," he told them. "Your behavior,